Today, we're excited to hear from Ben Edmond, CEO and founder of Connectbase. Prior to founding Connectbase in 2015, Ben served as the Chief Revenue Officer at Global Capacity. He was responsible for all aspects of the company's go-to-market strategy and its execution. He has 20 years of experience in the fiber, telecom, and networking industries, encompassing broad expertise in the areas of executive leadership, customer experience, sales, marketing, and operations. So today we'll discuss with Ben how automation is transforming the connectivity marketplace. Ben will share specifics on how Connectbase uses APIs in a variety of functionalities and customer types. And we'll walk through best practices and techniques to take first steps in your own automation plan. Ben was a leader at the very beginning of the API movement, and so his wealth of experience, expertise, and the great work that he's been doing in the marketplace, I think will be of value to everybody who tunes in to our webinar today. So Ben, thank you for being with us. Thank you for Connectbase and the work y'all do with INCOMPAS. And so I just wanted to kind of kick off our conversation today to talk about what are the trends you see, the observations of automation in the connectivity industry, and what you're seeing in the marketplace right now.
Well, thank you, Chip. Really appreciate the opportunity to be here with INCOMPAS. You guys are a great organization and proud to be a member and participating. There's a lot to be said on the topic of automation. Really, if you think about the world we live in today, it is a digital world. It is shaping how we play, how we learn, how we work, how we learn, and automation is, central to that. We see a lot of core trends around process efficiency in our industry specifically. Think about the process of selling, the process of delivering, the process of supporting, and all the other attributes in there. We're seeing a lot of investment, over the last 5 to 10 years in particular, but it's accelerating and it's really diving deeper into some core trends around customer experience. We see observations, from an automation trend standpoint around taking cost out of the delivery of the experience, managing the realities of a capital intensive industry, and making sure that that cost is optimized for the experience delivered. And I think, third on the list would be that experience itself. Automation is not just about saving costs. I think the core driver is actually around improving the customer experience. And if you can take costs out of the equation and improve process at the same time, it's that trifecta win. I think a lot of companies are paying attention to the customer experience for all kinds of external pressures and internal pressures to deliver more and create more value for that customer.
So if you were having a conversation with someone in the connectivity industry, how would you start the conversation of why automation, and how do you define, from your perspective, automation and what it means?
Sure. So why automation? I think it really, you need a detailed plan and thought process, and not just to say, hey, I'm going to automate everything. Human beings still matter. The conversation we're having is important to the equation. There's lots of examples of that. But when you step back and look at, can automation help me achieve my business goals around delivering customer value, stakeholder value, employee experience? That's when automation is a good decision. And looking at the way current business processes are done, and is there an opportunity to apply technology to digitize that experience and accelerate the outcomes, and even up-level the outcomes, not just about shrinking time, but inserting data to have data-driven automation to improve the outcomes for the employee, for the customer, for the shareholders, whatever perspective, or ideally, it really hits all combinations there. So I think the starting point, Chip, is really to understand the current business processes of whatever your role you're looking at. And then can technology be applied to digitize that experience that leads to a positive outcome? And if the answer is yes, then applying automation, investing in software and the compute and the data to achieve that is a good decision.
And as you see some of the more popular or useful automation tools, what would those be? And how would you kind of list out what you think would be most helpful to the connectivity industry and companies?
Yeah, good question. Today the list is long. There's a lot of investment on the back office and the front office around automation. We look at the good work that other software companies do in the background in network management and just automating the observability of the network and the build out of infrastructure of code to save platform engineering and DevOps time, automation of the service delivery process, and working with orchestration engines where literally the software reaches into optical equipment or SD-WAN boxes, provisions the service, and enables that in near real time or shrunken down delivery cycles. Those things are real, they're happening, they've been happening, and they continue to get investment. And then as you look in the front office, before somebody actually orders something, we see automation primarily in the marketing processes. So, building campaigns to educate and engage the target market, sales processes within the CRM to navigate through the complex buying process that makes up connectivity in lots of cases today. There's been a lot of automation and investment in that ecosystem led by people like Salesforce, enabling the market to drive there. One that's near and dear to our heart is the configure price quote workflow. So we've built our own configure price quote engine, and that allows for automation of pricing for the seller to deliver a quote back to the customer. And we see that as just normal investments that are going on in the market to improve the employee experience, improve the customer experience, and frankly take cost out of the equation at the same time.
And this is very helpful as we talk about all the different popular tools or use cases. And I want to remind everyone who's watching the webinar, we want this to be interactive. Please send us questions at the end of our conversation or my conversation with Ben. We'll take any questions from the audience that you might have. So please type them in, send them in, and at the end of our conversation, we'll have a Q&A period in time that Ben can answer any specific questions that anybody may have. So let's talk about APIs. Sure. What are they, and why are they so important today?
It's an important question, and it's not something for executives or salespeople or buyers to get afraid of. It's something to embrace. And what an API is, very simply, think of it as a door to your application and your partner's applications. So the API stands for an application programming interface. And the interface is that entry point so I can leverage that system application data from somewhere else. And there's different types of APIs, but they all wrap into that umbrella is you're opening the door to allow somebody to access systematically another machine, another application, your data and application. And for us, there's partner APIs. When a company wants to expose their serviceability, product catalog, and pricing and ordering to a partner, they expose APIs to that partner that has a system to be able to consume. That's something Connectbase has invested in early on to enable our customers to do that. And there's security aspects to the partner. You don't want to expose everything to the partner. You want to expose what they have enabled for that partner to receive their reality. And APIs allow that configurability of the relationship. Embracing standards is something that's really important to think about with APIs, and to simplify the ecosystem, we embrace LSO Sonata APIs from MEF, but there's other organizations out there like TM Forum and GSMA. The ultimate goal, though, with standards is to build scalability and security. In addition to the partner APIs, though, there's internal APIs. Think of your quoting system connected to your CRM system, connected to your inventory system at a telecom service provider. You know, those systems are best when you connect them together and you automate the experience so the employee doesn't have to swivel chair from one system to another. We expose a set of APIs for internal consumption at Connectbase to allow our customers using our cloud platform to integrate with Salesforce or Dynamics or Amdocs or Netcracker, all kinds of different systems out there that are the reality of the typical business today. You know, businesses don't just have one application, they have many today to power all kinds of different functions. And those applications deliver the best value and experience when they're integrated together with APIs. The last type of API is within the applications itself, front end and back end. When we build an application at Connectbase, we're consuming APIs within the application to reach into the database, to pull data, to engage workflow in different services, and they stay containerized within that application that it's serving its customer. So, you know, when you think APIs, think of it as a door between systems, and think of three different types. The partner APIs, where you're exposing to external ecosystem, the internal APIs for application, then application-specific APIs.
So as you talk about, you know, what are APIs, the types of APIs? Last question, are they expensive? Are they difficult to implement? Give us insight on those kind of the practical questions.
It's an easy answer with a complex result. You know, the reality is it can be very simple and very cost effective, low cost to build and consume APIs, or it can be extraordinarily expensive to build and consume. It really depends on the type. You know, we use REST APIs as an example, which is a modern standards-based way to build APIs and expose them for our customers. There are APIs built into the ecosystem out there in the telecom world that are SOAP-based APIs that originated 10, 15, 20 years ago that are, you know, structured differently, have different mechanisms like technology called XML, and ultimately are more expensive to integrate in, maintain, and work with. If you embrace standards, it reduces cost and complexity. If you look at solutions that are, you know, already enabled instead of custom development, that reduces cost and complexity. And in looking for things that are one-to-many approach instead of one-for-one approach reduces cost and complexity, because it's not just about the build cost one time. The reality, like most things, you have to maintain it. It's like buying a car. You can buy the car, but you have to maintain it as well. And APIs work the same way. You want to really have the right recipe for security and performance and versioning to maintain. Then that takes cost and capital.
And so if a company wanted to build their own API strategy, what would you consider to be a strong API strategy? And what's the best way to build that strategy?
Yeah, a very good question. I look at it in probably, 5 dimensions for building a strong API strategy. And it starts with, clarity of purpose. Just like I talk internally around, the team, we have to have clarity of purpose as a company, as a team, and as an individual role. And if we don't, we're not going to accomplish our goals. So yeah, building an API strategy starts with defining the purpose of your APIs and what you want to achieve as the outcome. It may be to connect into your partner ecosystem to sell more. It might be to connect into your partner ecosystem to buy from partners to extend your reach and improve, win rates. It might be to connect systems together internally so you automate more of the process to curate the end quote to cash workflow and improve employee and customer experience. Whatever the reason, and it really doesn't matter as long as it's the truth, setting clear goals is the start. I think second is really around standardization. Follow industry best practices and standards for your API design. And there's all kinds of great guidance out there from an API strategy standpoint to embrace, including, collaborating with Connectbase. It's what we've done from the beginning and, something we believe passionately. But look at your trade organizations that focus on APIs like MEF, like TM Forum for guidance as well as in general practices. There's tools out there like Swagger that make it a very simple, structured, and optimal process to build to open API specs and really help you accelerate your strategy. When I think about building a strong API strategy, the third aspect, which is probably the most important today, just given the world we live in, is security. You really need to think about, protecting your assets, building an API to expose, what you have or what you're consuming, whether it's in between applications or with partners. You really want to have security top of mind and think through the proper authentication, the authorization mechanisms to protect your application and data. And if you don't have the internal capabilities, look to partners to do that. But security is really important today. Documentation, I can't emphasize this enough. Yes, we're a startup for the last 7 years, building for a really big industry, but we've invested in documentation. And if you're going to take the initiative to build your own APIs or have an API strategy, make sure you have the right documentation and you invest along the way as change, as you version, as you add to it, have comprehensive documentation, because that's going to save engineering resources. When something goes wrong, you're going to want that, or when something is changes from your global strategy, you're going to really want to understand the levers, and the documentation will help. And then think about scalability. We did 53 million API calls on our platform last month. The reality is there's platforms out there like Twilio and others doing literally billions of calls. You want to think about the performance, the expectation, and the ability to scale as it's consumed, and really not look at what's current reality, but what's the future potential of it, and build for those specs and really understand those.
Yeah, it really is an amazing volume to show how APIs have grown over the last 5 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we have an audience question, Ben, and this is the question. Why is there an ongoing API cost for Connectbase, but not other systems applications? And the question also goes into trying to make clear, are you saying that those other systems don't make changes to their APIs?
No, I mean, reality is the market changes all the time, and whatever solution you pick, whether you build it yourself, whether you partner with Connectbase or partner with some other platform, you really want to understand versioning and the changes, and just adapt and expect that the world will change. We have a subscription pricing strategy. Some people have a custom development pricing strategy. There's no one right recipe. We embrace and work with our customers in all kinds of different facets and try to do what's right for them. Just like, our complementary or competitors out there, they're doing a lot of good work. We as an ecosystem are doing a lot of good work. We connect with about 60 different applications for our customers. And ultimately, we're not the big fish out there in the world of applications, but we're doing the right things and connected over 350 service providers around the world now. But try to embrace a simple model of subscription, like a CRM, like other things.
So another audience question, and it's a good follow-up to what
Sure.
you just answered. Which systems that leverage the APIs are you seeing that best capture synergies and value?
Yeah, that's a great one. I think, one of the best ones to think about is the whole curation from placing an order through to inventory, back to serviceability and product catalog management. That can be integrated across APIs and really make sure that your employee experience, your customer experience is maximized. Along with, you'll end up making more money by participating more fully. So think of it this way: as you go and build something new and create yet another on-net location where you have capacity, that updates your inventory to show you have capacity and product catalog. That needs to feed back into your sales machine to show that that's available and ready to be consumed. And traditional was to do extracts, have one employee group, pass it over to another employee group, update it, and it happened once a month, once a quarter, once a year, or not. The reality is APIs can create that ecosystem all connected together where it's truly automated. So as you price something out, it passes over to the order management system. As your order management system goes through the delivery, it updates inventory. As you update inventory, it passes back to your CRM and your quote management tool to update serviceability, update pricing, and now you're going to go sell more.
So the questions keep flowing, Ben.
Sure, fire them away.
How would you describe an API as a product mindset and its best practices?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it goes back into, really building your strategy from a product mindset. If you're a telecom service provider, whether you're a managed service provider, a infrastructure builder, a carrier, really doesn't matter. If you embrace that we're in a digital world, and the world has shifted, which I do, you should be thinking about your API stack as a mechanism to go to market, and a product thought process around that is, to me, the right thought process. So how do you want the customers to interface into? Do you want to embrace one way? Do you want to embrace all ways? Do you want one for one build and replication capabilities? Do you want one to many? What's your security framework? What's your pricing strategy? Authentication? All those should be detailed and thought of. Our value prop to that equation is, we've thought about it a lot. We've gone through the ringer in terms of understanding the market, understanding the customers, and doing it at scale. And then we bring our approach to help customers connecting to a wide variety of markets, whether they're buyers and sellers, and control their own destiny of security and performance and who they connect into. But having that product mindset of, what do you want to accomplish? What are the outcomes you're trying to achieve, and what are constraints, security constraints, performance constraints, or outcomes that are important in the decision? That should be planned out, and when in doubt, embrace standards, embrace expertise, and help you achieve your goal.
As we have this conversation, we talk about, the benefits and best practices. What could you go into any hard data that really captures the benefit of API, the value of API, or the use of APIs?
Yeah, absolutely. And it really depends on the perspective you were thinking about. But I'll start with the sales perspective, since in my DNA chip, I came from a sales background. So at my heart, I want to go sell something. But if you think about that, for the constituents of Encompass who go there that are selling telecom connectivity in a competitive environment, APIs allow you to participate in the market systematically. And what that means specifically is, people don't have to remember to raise their hand and say, I want to log into your portal. I want to email this person. I want to sit down and get a bid back. They have their process. And because of APIs, you show up in their processes. So it takes the subjectivity around, am I going to bid or not bid, out of the equation. And then two, to combine to that thought process, not only are you systematically participating, because you're doing it in a data-driven API way, you're able to really maximize your participation by thinking about your addressable market and flowing it in. Whether that's on net, whether that's off net, whether that's near net with construction, whether that's one product or multiple products, the subjectivity gets taken away and you're specifically going in and addressing the needs. And what we find is that companies that embrace that, have delivered 20 to 30 times returns on their investment within the first 12 months by going in and really systematically participating, but then managing it. So, it's one thing to participate with one. Well, what if you want to participate with your channel, with your wholesale customers, with your own ecosystem, and create that really defendable ecosystem, leveraging that real-time participation and maximizing your success. So we've seen that, return on the sales side. On the buy side, it's really two different things, tied to economics, and then one tied to the ability to do more. So APIs, when done with their trading partners versus logging into portals, sending emails for bids back, allow customers to do more with the same team that they have. And in today's world, the world's busy. So there's no shortage of things to do. And these people are being pushed to do more than ever before. And APIs allow you to keep up and get ahead of that flow. Secondly, it becomes a data-driven process. I have biases, you have biases, the world has biases when it comes to, I want to buy this, I want to do that. When you're doing in a data-driven workflow connected with APIs, the best answer is presented and you don't have to spend a lot of time thinking about it. You can analyze it, but you don't have the subjectivity. And what we find is gross margins improve because of that process, and because you're shrinking the time to get the answers. And you think about who the buyers are serving in the market, they're serving the enterprise sellers that are trying to connect locations together. Those enterprise sellers increase their win rates when the buyers embrace APIs by getting responses that are more competitive or more aligned, not just lower price, more aligned to the outcomes at a faster response time. So you do more with less or the same, you improve gross margins, and you improve win rates. And that win rates, it's not often thought about in the business case, but it becomes the biggest economic driver.
Ben, it's been a great conversation. I look, not only today, but soon we'll both be in Tampa at the INCOMPAS show.
Looking forward to it.
Everyone who's on the webinar, we hope that you'll also join us at our show. We have a great lineup of speakers, not only on best practices and trends in the API and the connectivity, conversations around artificial intelligence and how that's going to really feed into what Ben has been talking about today, and enhance, I think, and accelerate everything that Ben was talking about. But it's been a joy to have this conversation with you. Your team is great. We look forward to seeing you in Tampa. And if there's anything else that you'd like to close with, now is the time to get started on your API plan and strategy.
Absolutely, Chip. And I'll just close out and say that, one, if you're not planning on going to INCOMPAS in Tampa, change your mind and go. The participation last conference was fantastic. It's going to be even better. A lot of chance to network, to educate, and learn. If you haven't started your API journey, start. We can go through a discovery process. You can learn online. There's all kinds of ways to get started. But embrace the digital world, because the digital world is here to stay. And then think about it past the traditional steps. Go past of internal application connections, go to building your ecosystem, and think about your ecosystem as a strategic advantage of how you're going to compete and deliver the customer experience and value you want, and go and help execute on that strategy, whether it's build, buy, or both. Ultimately, it is an important part of the makeup of delivering value in the next generation of connectivity.
Ben, I appreciate the generous words about INCOMPAS and the show. Look forward to seeing you and your team in Tampa. And thank you for the conversation today.
Thank you, Chip. It was a great time.